Okay, anytime.
Can I?
Yes.
I would like to say some few words about the program, about the Moscow, Moscow Art Theater School experience with you guys, with that first American studio established at the Moscow Art Theater in the beginning of the century. And before that, actually, it's the first and last American, real American studio. And you have a nickname in the Moscow Art Theater history, the Studio Six. You should understand that you are for us, because before you, we have five studios of the Moscow Art Theater. Most of them, four of them, in the 20s, And the first studio was even before the revolution. The second studio is the studio which is Days of the Turbines of Bulgakov's play. It's a middle of the 20s. And then the third studio is Vakhtangov Theater now. Fourth studio is just not very important. And then the fifth studio is it's the studio of the Russian students, and Roman Kozak was in charge of that. Then he died, unfortunately, 15 years ago. And the sixth studio, this is your studio, American studio, created by the Moscow Art Theater and Moscow Art Theater School. And I would like to explain you what happened actually, and in what time, what kind of time you came to Moscow Art School, and why you get through all of the obstacles and problems which we have in Russian Russian arts, in the Russian theater through decades, because Stanislavski's understanding of studio is the most important step in the development of any really new theater with some kind of new ideas and so on and so on. So uh, your studio was out of two parts. One part is in New York guys and Marat Yusim, который helped us, and then the part of the studio of Month on a Country. We called it Month on a Country from Detroit, University. And it's a two different ingredients, and the soup was very important, because actually nobody in Moscow Art Theater did a experience with a 4 years program, 3 and 4 years program. It's a real program of, we decided that we can invite American young actors and to create a studio, and we will disseminate it in America, in other countries. This is the beginning of the dream of Stanislavski, that Moscow Art Theater would be kind of a land, arts land, by the way, for the new theater, for the new companies, and so on and so on. And you did it because actually, I would like to remind you, and this is my probably toast to the 20 years of your graduation. You came to Russia, you came to Moscow, probably now I can say definitely in the best time of the whole century of Russian theater. It was freedom when you came to Moscow. It's another Moscow than now Moscow. Now Moscow, it's completely different. And I could not imagine now American studio in Moscow like your studio, the 3, 4 years education. It was a it was a it was a utopical time, I would say. It was a freedom of everything, freedom of repertoire, freedom of searching, new ways of teaching actors, freedom of going any place in Russia and in the world, and any time. And first time when American students were living in a Russian dorm together with the Russian actors, and it's completely different. And the school gave the best teachers of the Moscow Art Theater School to American actors, and we could not be open if Oleg Tabakov would be not became when Oleg Yefremov died 5 years before you. Oleg Tabakov became artistic director of the Moscow Art, and I became dean of the Moscow Art Theater School. And that combination, Oleg Tabakov and myself, because I actually, Sasha Popov, who was helped us technically, and he was a manager, and three of us started thinking about how to make the studio, and we decided that it would be like new actors, young actors from Russia, the same attention, the same love, the same problems, the same, uh, I would like to remind you that those years when you was there, Konstantin Raikin came to teach young actors in the Moscow Art Theater School. In 2006 or seven, Kirill Serebrennikov uh, had his own students, and they became the first new generation of young actors in Russia, to sociologically, politically, and everything. And I would like to remind you that Kirill Serebrennikov now in Europe, and he's not just himself in Europe, and he's doing the show in the best European theaters and opera and so on, and film and so on. But he brought to get with him to the center of Europe, to the best European theaters in Germany, in France, in Switzerland. He brought our actors, our students who graduate like you, and they actually asked me and asked Oleg Tabakov, and I convinced him, and they got number 7 of the Moscow Art Theater Studio. So you are 6, Kirill Serebrennikov 7. You have a history, political history with the 6, and Kirill Serebrennikov had a 7. 7 actually happy number, but in case of Serebrennikov, finally, yes, it's a happy number. But in reality, we could not last few years even talk about Kirill Serebrennikov, because he is the guy who was against the war, against the stuff which we have now there. And you are among those stuff, and this is very important. And for me now to 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 think about what is the 20 years of the American studio, what is number 6 means. It means that the world is good for us. That was at that time the world and the country and everything in the dorm, in the theater, in the school. You did have the same stuff which the Russians have there. And I would say, because of you over there in the dorm, we have to make a lot of things to make our life, in a more Western time, not in a Russian, stuff when the dorm in Russian, it's общага. Общага, it's like in Russian words, тюряга, prison, horrible word, общага, тюряга, and blah, blah, blah. It's a really house of the actors of new generation, and so on and so on. So we had to do many things to be on the level of the world theater, of the world education, and in the world, service of the new theaters. And I remember all of you there, all of you. I was teaching you. I was trying to organize your every day life over there, and hundreds of many things, when you are not just 2 weeks, not even 3 months, you are a few years in Moscow. This is the first and most important experience, which is unforgettable. That's my speech.